Hyundai Santa Fe used to be a benign family hauler, but now it looks like that and is a bit of a design talking point at last. But it is more expensive. So today, instead of focusing on one of the more expensive calligraphy or elite variants, I'm going to look at this, the entry-level version, and see exactly what it gets you for your cash. The overall recipe of Hyundai's family favourite SUV hasn't changed, with 7 seats, choices of 2 or 4-wheel drive and plenty of space. But while previous versions had relatively conventional styling, the new model is really trying to stand out. Love or hate the Santa Fe's looks, there's a lot more to this car than a design statement, and even at this entry level, you're getting a lot included for the cash. It goes up against Toyota Kluger, Kia Sorento and Mazda CX-90. If you want to, you can spend $75,000 on the new generation Hyundai Santa Fe, and that's for the top of the range calligraphy variant. But this version, the entry level simply named Hybrid, will save you $20,000, and that's a lot of cash in anyone's money. And at this point, it still gets exactly the same hybrid powertrain, it gets a lot of the same technology, and there's only one option available, that paint, Pebble Blue, for $695. Like all new Hyundais, the Santa Fe is sold with a 5-year warranty, while roadside assistance and cap price servicing is included for the same period. Under the bonnet is a 1.6 litre petrol engine, which might sound a little bit small for a car of this scale, but it has 2 secret weapons. One, it's turbocharged, and secondly, it's bolted to an electric motor and a hybrid powertrain. And it has a 1.5 kilowatt hour battery, which is actually quite large for a mild hybrid, non-plug-in hybrid like this. That means lots of power and lots of efficiency. How efficient? Well, Hyundai claims this car will do 5.6 litres to 100 kilometres, which for a large 7-seat family SUV is actually pretty respectable. It's bolted to a 7-speed automatic transmission, and all the other variants get 4-wheel drive, whereas this, because it's the entry level, gets front-wheel drive. I love the exterior styling of the new Santa Fe. I think it's really unapologetic and works absolutely beautifully in an age when cars are all kind of looking a bit the same. And I'm very happy to see that on the interior it all continues. This lovely H pattern that you see in the headlights and the taillights, and also repeated in some of the plastics around the car embossed, you see in the air vents here and repeated around the interior. And the ergonomics and the design is actually generally very good. I'm really struggling to find any material that doesn't feel good, if not necessarily look good, but I'll come back to that in a bit. And there's also plenty of good features as well. So, top glove box up here and a second one down there. That's not completely unique, you get cars with 2 glove boxes, but what I've never seen before is one that has an additional shelf in between as well. So the 3 out of 3 is unusual and very good. That I think is unique. I've also got excellent space for the driver. I've got really good view of the surroundings. It's excellent visibility out of this cabin. That's again due to the design. I've got loads of glass on the exterior, really tall glassware as well, so you can see out beautifully. Storage gets a massive tick as well. Just look at some of the things. In addition to those 3 areas in the glove box region there, I've also got a place to put 2 phones. Only one has wireless charging. I suspect in one of the higher grades you get 2 spots for wireless device charging. There's also this clever panel here, so if I want to charge a phone with power only and not necessarily connect for data, then you can stop it connecting for information as well, which is an interesting security feature a lot of people will like. And in this center bin here, I've got loads of space. That's pretty good already, but if you remove the little tray in there, it becomes absolutely massive. And there's also this, not sure what that is. Door pockets are about average, plenty of space, more options there as well, so space definitely gets a huge tick. Technology is also, remember this is the entry level, also pretty well done as well. I love that I've got a climate panel which is separate to the central touchscreen, so that is just separated, completely easy, ergonomic, very easy to use there. And then we get to the actual digital side up at the top. 2 12.3-inch screens simultaneously behind a single pane of perspex, a little bit like what BMW is doing, except in a budget package. Remember, this car is around about $55,000, so try getting something like that in a BMW for the same price. Now that's the good stuff. There are a few things that I'm not so keen on in this cabin. Let's start with some of those materials. They all feel great, they don't look particularly special. The seat upholstery, I've got no problem with fabrics in upholstery at all. I think in some cases it's preferable to synthetic leather or even the real deal. And I like the look of this, but it doesn't feel very nice. It's a bit cheap feeling. And the same goes for this mock aluminium kind of trim here. Ioniq does that a little bit as well, and I don't think it looks particularly premium. And once again, the same for this sort of cross-hatch material as well. Looks okay, feels okay, it just doesn't lift the cabin. Again, that's another reminder that I'm in the entry level, the cheapest version. And it also comes down to some of the seat ergonomics as well. This headrest is always kind of there. You can't adjust it out of the way. You can go up and down, but not backwards and forwards. And I like a headrest or head restraint that's kind of out of the way. And the effect of that is it makes me want to put the seat back further back, and that makes me further away from the steering wheel, which means I've got to put the seat forward, and then the whole ergonomics of my driving position is upset. That might be very much a personal problem. You may not have a problem with that at all, but for me it's just perhaps a shortcoming. So other exclusions include no sunroof. I don't have a head-up display, but I've got a little spot where it looks like one goes, again in a higher spec version, and I don't get native navigation. This is the front wheel drive, which means there's no prop shaft going to the rear wheels, which means there's loads more space down here for stuff where you don't have a four-wheel drive transmission. I only have electric adjustment on the driver's seat, not the passenger seat.
The new Santa Fe has not yet been safety tested by ANCAP, but it gets a whole raft of active and passive safety tech such as AEB and 10 airbags.
The information and entertainment system in the Santa Fe is particularly good, especially as this is the entry-level version. All of what you see here is standard, starting with that 12.3-inch driver's instrument cluster, fully digital. It's really nice sharp resolution, very well presented graphics, and you get a nice little animation when the car starts up. But beyond that, it's pretty simple. You do get 3 different looks when you switch through a driving mode. It changes only the rim of the gauges according to which of those 3 driving modes you're in, and doesn't really introduce a lot of customization options. You can't really personalize it very much in terms of the look or the information it's presenting. What you do have is a choice of 2 different themes, which is a classic or a standard theme, but there's not an awful lot going on there. The other thing you can do is you can separate those designs from the driving mode. What I mean by that is if you like the sporty gauges, for example, you can go into the settings and have them permanently displayed regardless of what driving mode you're in. But as I say, it's a bit basic, a little bit simple when it comes to customization. The central screen, touch screen, another 12.3-inch display, and that's also really nice resolution, nice and sharp, really good refresh rate, works really nicely, and because it's so simple, it's very easy to navigate. The screen I particularly like in here is the hybrid screen. That shows you all the various components of the hybrid system, how well they're working, how much fuel it's saving you, and how much effect it's having on the hip pocket, so really important there. What I don't like is there's no native navigation. Now I know what you're going to say, most people these days use Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, which this has, but I like a map just to be there as the default screen. So as I'm driving, even if I haven't necessarily put in a destination or navigation instructions, I can just see what's going on up ahead. Am I a Luddite? Yes. Am I alone? Definitely not. So the technology level in here is really very good. It's a little bit simple, perhaps lacking some customization, but otherwise very good for the entry-level version. It's in the second row of seating in the Santa Fe where that exterior styling really starts to show how much of a practical difference it can make as well. Because of that boxy design, it actually makes the space in here huge. Look how much headroom I've got back here, and also look how low the window line is. It's right down below my shoulder, so I've got a wonderful view out, but smaller people also get a really nice view of the surroundings. And it's the same forward as well. Those annoying headrests are actually quite small, and I can see past that seat in front thanks to a slightly elevated seat bench as well. So practically speaking, that exterior design makes a big difference on the inside as well. There's not a lot of technology back here, but there's some really good examples of just practical thinking and lateral thinking. I'll show you some examples. This little slide out drawer here actually allows access to the same compartment underneath the central storage compartment in the front. And another clever feature, the same armrest hinges from the front as well, so rear occupants can have access to that central bin as well. Clever thinking. I do have USB-C charging on the inside of each front seat, so one per rear passenger. There's a map pocket here. I don't have my own climate control panel, but I do have my own individual little vent, which is a clever touch. And the rear seats themselves are very comfortable for 2 reasons. One is they roll independently of each other, allowing you more legroom if you want it. And also the backrest reclines independently also. So you can make this second row really, really comfortable. In addition to that clever storage, I've also got two proper cup holders in the door pocket here, reasonable size ones, plus another bottle holder down here. And my favorite feature, of course, more cup holders. The Americans are going to love this thing, and a center armrest. So the second row is really comfortable, loads of space. But this is the Santa Fe and it's a 7-seater, so let's have a look at the third row, the one behind this one. Getting into the third row is a breeze thanks to push button folding seats. And once you're back here, there is loads of good stuff to talk about as well. First of all, the space. Once again, those boxy exterior proportions mean there's heaps of space on the inside as well. Look how much headroom I've got back here. I'm 6'2", and I've still got plenty of room above me in the third row. There's also loads of elbow room. And speaking of which, in that area, I've got another pair of proper cup holders. I've got USB-C power. Also, tow room. Who's ever heard of tow room actually in the third row of a 7-seater? This is a place you would be genuinely comfortable spending some time, whether you're an adult or a child. So in that second row, I've got space for 2 ISOFIX child seats. In the third row, 2 more. You could have 4 child seats in here. Now, I don't know how much reproduction you've been doing, but this might be a very feasible car for you if you have a big family. Space in the front row, second row and third. This is one of the most versatile 7-seaters I've ever experienced. That is a 628 litre boot, which is absolutely massive, and there's only minimal intrusion from these wheel arches as well, so it's a really good size and shape. But if that's not enough size, then you can expand it to nearly 2,000 litres by folding all the rear seat rows. There's lots of nice features like 12-volt power, these electric release second row seat buttons, and there's also a full-size spare, but because it lives underneath the car, it doesn't impact the space or the practicality inside the car. The only thing that is a bit annoying is it does have this removable blind to cover valuables in the boot, but there's nowhere to stow it under the boot floor because of this intrusion of the battery system and some tools. So if you don't want to use that, it does rattle around in the boot, or you leave it at home in the garage where you risk forgetting it. Previously, you could have the Santa Fe as a diesel or a lovely smooth V6. And although this version is going to be available as a 2.5 litre 4-cylinder, for now it's only available as a 1.6 litre 4-cylinder. So the big thing is, how does it go on the road? So let's start with that drivetrain, the 1.6 turbocharged 4-cylinder under the bonnet paired with a hybrid electric powertrain. It actually works really well in practice. Let me demonstrate. So coming out this roundabout, hit the gas, and there's a really nice instant little nugget of torque followed by that quite muscular turbocharged petrol engine coming in afterwards. The pairing works really nicely. The handover between electric and petrol is quite difficult to notice, but the thing that is really standing out is that nice lunge of electric torque as soon as you need it. That works very well from the standstill, off the traffic lights, or from a standing start, but also in gear at relatively low speeds as well. When you really rev it out, there's a bit of engine noise. It does come through a little bit more than I'd like to in a car like this that really should be more focused on sort of low NVH noise, vibration, harshness. But what I have to say is what noise it does make is actually quite nice. And that's because this engine is quite prolific across the Hyundai and Kia families. That same 1.6 turbo 4-cylinder is in loads of stuff. It's under the bonnet of the Kia Cerato GT, it's under the bonnet of the Hyundai i30 N-Line, it's in a lot of things, and it can produce up to 150 kilowatts. In this, it's not quite as much as that. It's been detuned more in the name of efficiency. They claim this vehicle can do an average of 5.6 litres per 100 kilometers. And let me tell you, over a really honest combination of different driving styles, freeway, about town, suburban, everything, I've thrown an honest mix at this thing, and it's done 5.7. So it is just over the claim, which honestly is very, very unusual. And it's also quite good fun to sling around some corners. I really like the steering. It's a really nice setup. There's way more feedback and feel than one would expect from a large family-focused SUV. But Hyundai has decided that people want to enjoy driving cars of all types and all segments. And this one, it's It's got plenty. Like it does, it feels like a front wheel drive. Front wheel drives generally manifest their attributes more obviously the heavier the car gets, because it's trying to do more with just the front wheels. But I have to say that it really is a genuinely good fun package to chuck around. There's plenty of performance, no question there. Acceleration is surprisingly good. Honestly, I know you're not going to believe me because a little engine in a big car, but honestly it does actually a better job than you might expect. But all that sporty handling and quite rewarding dynamics has resulted in a perhaps less favourable attribute, and that is a quite sudden ride. Now, previous Santa Fe's have had a really nice soft suspension tune. They were previously tuned in Australia by Hyundai's local outfit, which made their models particularly well tuned and suited to Australian and local driving conditions. This one just feels like it's been focused a little bit too much on the sporty side, and that means that the ride comfort is ever so slightly compromised as well. It's something you definitely could live with, but it is also something that stands out for perhaps not the right reasons. Something else this car does pretty well is its turning circle. Now, front wheel drive's not renowned for a tight turning circle because the drive shafts in the front suspension and steering geometry prevent how far those wheels can turn. But this, for being a long and quite big car, has a really good turning circle, which you'll love in suburban environments where you do need to make some tight U-turns and other maneuvers. But let me demonstrate one of the things that really grinds my gears. That noise. That is the driver assistance speed limit warning, which will make an annoying little 3 bongs at you when you are just 1 kilometer over the speed limit. And let me show you the other really annoying thing about it. Is when you go into the driver settings to turn it off, you get another warning, which is the driver attention warning, telling me that I'm not paying attention to the road. Well, that's right. The reason I'm not paying attention to the road is because I'm trying to turn off all the annoying bongs and bings and things that are clearly distracting me from driving. So I turn it off, speed limit warning. You can set it to just speed limit information, or off, thank you. But the annoying thing about that is it defaults back on every time you cycle the ignition. So you'll have to do that every time you drive this car, and then be annoyed by the driver attention monitoring because you're trying to turn off while you're driving. One thing that Hyundai has corrected, which I'm very happy about, is that if the lane departure system is annoying you, you can turn that off with a long press of the steering wheel button. But ironically, that's actually really good now. It doesn't intervene at the wrong time at all. So that's good. They just need to sort out that driver, the speed limit warning. And if they can't do that with an over-the-air update, because everyone I know is complaining about it, then that will be a missed opportunity. Dynamically, this thing is very impressive. It is really good fun to drive. I'm so impressed with how much performance and power that engine has, even though it's tiny. The only thing dynamically that perhaps takes anything away from a perfect score sheet is the brake pedal. It is a bit squashy, and I think that's probably because it's trying to do a little bit of regenerative braking, which is good for efficiency, but it also does take away from the driving experience slightly. The brake power itself is very good at hauling this thing up, even though it is around about 2 tons. But as I say, it's a little bit on the squashy side, but that's something that most people will be prepared to pay a sacrifice for because the efficiency is so good. Now, this thing has a 67-litre fuel tank, which means if you have a full battery, that 1.5 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery, and a full petrol tank, this thing will do between Melbourne and Sydney on a single fill up. It'll do about 1,000 kilometers on a single trip, which you won't be able to do because you will need a wee and a pie in that time, but it's nice to know you can. The other thing it means, which is perhaps, we don't all do Sydney to Melbourne or vice versa very often, but the other thing that means you'll be able to do is fill this thing up about once a fortnight. Now, a mate of mine lives with one of these, the Hybrid, and says that is the reality. If you're doing a regular amount of commuting that most Australians do, nothing out of the ordinary, you'll only visit the servo, you only fill up at the pumps once every 2 weeks. Which is great news for people with a busy lifestyle, and also great news for anyone who is suffering from the cost of living crisis right now. Honestly, I thought I was going to be a little bit disappointed by this car. I thought it was perhaps going to give me too many reminders that it is the entry-level 55 grand version, which it does, but I think given all the stuff that it does well, the really nice driving dynamics, the excellent efficiency, the practical features which are everywhere, and that size, it is a really usable 7-seater. Honestly, I'd be prepared to live with all the little reminders of perhaps some cheap materials here and there. The entry-level Hyundai Santa Fe is fun to drive, it's very efficient, and it's quite practical as well. But in spending some time in this car, I am constantly reminded that it is the most affordable entry-level version. What I think would do really well is a version of this car that has the front-wheel drive powertrain, but the mid-spec elite level of specification. Because let's be honest, most families would rather enjoy a better level of specification day to day rather than an all-wheel drive system they probably only utilise every so often. And that version will probably cost around $62,000. Either way, whichever version you choose, you're still getting that excellent styling that I absolutely love, that not only doesn't compromise practically, it actually improves practicality. That is the entry-level Hyundai Santa Fe, and if you've liked this video, hit like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get reminded every time a notification of a new video goes live. This is not the last time we're going to be looking at this car. We will be comparing it to some of its closest rivals, so keep tuned, watch this space when those videos go live, and also let us know what you think about this car in the comments. Is it the pick of the range, or would you rather spend your money on something a little bit more premium? My name's Daniel Gardner, thanks for watching Car Sales.